Hello.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I love that background. Where is that?
I don't know. It's a video Zoom background I found somewhere.
Oh, it's wonderful. And hello, Susan. How are you today?
Susan's muted.
No, now I can say I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing all right. Inspired by the TED Talk, I went for a long walk down to the river.
Oh, I wish I could do that.
Oh, it was great.
Don't do much walking anymore.
Steve said he's let his membership lapse. And I asked why, but I haven't heard back yet.
So it was an intentional letting it lapse?
Yeah, it seems to be intentional. Yeah.
Maybe he's sick of Zoom. Many people are.
What's that?
Many people are sick of Zoom.
Oh, well, what can you do? Get your vaccine.
Yeah. Hi, Madeline. You're muted.
Well, since we have a short amount of time, though we can always restart, but I didn't hear back from you, Madeline, as far as the West Virginia poet, so you're muted.
They did another heart procedure, and it lasted about 5 days, and I went back in AFib. So I'm just kind of dragging along.
Well,
right.
that's a good excuse. But you really didn't need to have to do all that in order to get out of the work.
I'll remember that next time.
If you want, you can send me the contact information and I'll,
Okay.
or just do it in the future. It's up to you.
I was thinking I sent it, but maybe I didn't. My brain.
Yeah, you got something else going on. Then I'm sure you'd rather not. So
no, they have a wonderful group, West Virginia writers, and a lot of poets. So I try to stay in touch with them, although they view me as the stepchild, I think.
So anyway, I sent out the TED link, and it was just as an alternative, so we'd have something to talk about. The speaker in the TED Talk is actually a practicing psychologist, and he also writes poetry. And so I don't know. Did everybody have a chance to look at it?
I did.
I thought it was phenomenal.
I missed the first part. I don't know what happened. And I started to go back and try to listen to it, and then an ad popped up. So, but I did listen to it.
Yeah. Well, I found it just so inspiring because in light of the catastrophic events that have been happening on every continent with regard to the environment, hearing him affirm poets as contributing to the fight made me feel so much better. I mean, other than writing a check, I'm not exactly in a position to fly to Africa and stand guard against the poachers in the preserves or anything like that. So wielding the pen was affirmed, and I found that very personally touching. So.
Well, I was waiting for him to bring up about the bees, because the bees are my major concern. And I buy beehives for Africa every year. But when the bees go, we're all gone. Animals, plants, you name it, we're gone.
Well, it's not just in Africa that the bees are in trouble. They're here.
No, but that's where I said, actually, I think it was Africa. It may have been South America this time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's part of Heifer International that I give money to.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Well,
But-
last Sunday, the Muse Center, Writing Center, sponsored along with Louisa, the poet laureate of Virginia, Poems for Our Living and Breathing. And so it was about poetry in the civic arena.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the ones reading. Tomorrow, the poets at Old Dominion English Department are going to do a reading, as well as there's an open mic if you want to read something there.
The TED Talk fell in with something I've just been reading. It's called The 8 Master Lessons of Nature by Gary Ferguson. And
Okay.
many things that we should know and should learn about nature. I found it very inspiring, just as I did his talk.
And who is the author of that one, Susan?
Gary Ferguson.
Gary Ferguson. Okay. I have not yet read it, but I have checked out from the library a radical approach to saving wildlife, and that's Nature's Best Hope. And my understanding is that the author indicates that given all the suburban lawns we have in this country, if we can persuade people to plant native species, we can make an incredible impact. So
Yeah,
again, the power of the pen in the battle to save the planet is really something. Have any of you all written environmental poetry or civically minded poetry?
I missed the first part of what you said.
Have you written poetry from the perspective of environmental activism or civic engagement? Or
Well, I'm not as outspoken about that as you, because nature has been a part of me since I was 4 years old.
Mhm.
And in the 80s, I spent a great deal of time working with students on endangered animals. So it's something I've embraced all my life. And I kind of sit back and chuckle at what I consider Johnny-come-latelys.
Oh,
You know, I can't imagine not embracing nature ever.
Mhm.
I mean, when I was 11, I wrote a poem about bees. Only my bees were nearsighted, but still, you know,
Mhm.
it's always been a part of my life. So
I'm in the middle of putting together a whole lot of nature poems, and quite a few of them I was surprised to see turn out to be climate change or environmental themes.
Mhm.
It was only putting it all together that made me realize how much I'm passionate about that issue.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also something that inspired me was an older book, a book of essays, I forget his name, Gessner, you probably know him. He wrote a book called Sick of Nature. And the title was provocative, obviously.
Right.
He was really, the main essay was a diatribe about the fact that writers in general, not just poets, bore the pants off people about nature, and they're not, they don't inspire.
Mhm.
And then he went away and read a few poems, and I think he changed his mind somewhat. but all the same, he was passionate, or is passionate about the wild, not just civilized nature,
Right.
not just even protected national park type nature, but the wild, which is fast disappearing all over the world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, the stereotype of nature poetry is, you know, Joyce Kilmer, The Tree.
Right.
I
Um,
can say it and sing it, but I won't.
it's all sweetness and light and superficial, and
Mhm.
the best nature poetry is either using the imagery of nature for philosophical, spiritual, psychological, emotional reasons, and or as you've just said, Linda, it's nature, not just the sweetness and light, but the full panoply, the
Mhm.
predator prey.
There's a place for both.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place for both.
Yeah.
If it works.
I'm hoping that that type of poetry makes more people see what they're not seeing now. You can talk about the sweetness and light if it awakes somebody's interest somehow.
We, of course, in our age, sort of look down on the old pastoral tradition, you know, which was mainly sweetness and light, and inspired people, but now it's sort of out of fashion, I guess. We have to shock people today, it seems sometimes. You have to shock people.
Well, there's got to be something in the middle between
Yeah,
prurient shocking
Right.
as an aesthetic virtue
yes.
and ignoring the bad is what I meant by sweetness and light, and painting an artificially cutesy picture rather than celebratory.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. And also in the 20th century and even into this one, a lot of nature poetry does attempt to both, well, juxtapose the sweetness and light against, at the very least, conflict between human beings and the rest of natural life, or even to critique the idea that mankind has dominion over the rest of nature, or that we're not even part of it, you know. So that conflictual approach, I think, is sometimes quite effective in doing what you say, that, you know, not ignoring the bad side.
But it's a known fact that because it's been shown that when an area is abandoned by humankind, how quickly nature reclaims it. And sometimes I think we're a bit egotistical when we think about our power, because it doesn't take nature long to recapture what we think we took.
Yeah, David Attenborough was talking about nature coming into cities because during the COVID lockdowns,
Right.
or emerging from hidden dens and spaces.
And you have to admit, the animals that are alive today have had many generations to adapt to humans. And I swear to you, I have a bumblebee that greets me every morning when I go out the door and thanks me for the blooming rosemary. And when it first happened, it made me nervous. But after it happened over and over again, he circles me and then goes back where he is and he greets me.
Or you have the right pheromones.
Well, I'm sure there's something to that because I can be with a group of people and walk in. If there's dogs, they all come to me. I don't know if that's good or bad. And I have so many feral cats visiting me now that I'm running out of cat food.
The word is out that you're a sucker.
Yes, the animals write it in invisible ink.
Oh,
on
they-
the mailbox.
They know. But the one feral cat that has adopted me but won't let me pet her, it's her territory now. And she'll let them come in and eat some of her food, but they know it's her territory.
Mhm.
But in terms of nature regenerating quickly, I mean, that is part of our problem now, that mankind has so altered the environment that even we can't adapt, let alone, you know, to pollution in the air, to plastics in the ocean, and so on and so forth. So that I think that is the crisis which maybe we in our generation need to build on in the poetry. That yes, there's always been some conflict between different species
Mhm.
and even, you know, plants and not just animals, but now we, with our technology and blindness, have really put everything at risk. And it's hard to write, I've tried it, it's hard to write poems which don't, you know, verge into the strident, preachy.
Mhm.
It's very hard. Or to have humor that isn't off-putting,
Mhm.
because it's difficult. I don't want to be dismissive about the things, but on the other hand, if I'm too earnest, it sounds preachy and off-putting.
I sympathize with that. I've tried that also. And as you said, if something comes across as preachy,
Yeah.
it's not going to accomplish anything when you get it published, or if you can get it published. Most publishers aren't too excited about that.
No.
So that is such a tough line to walk, to get the message across without conveying negativity and or veering, as David said, into the sweetness and light aspect of presenting nature. So what do you all do to create effective poems around these topics?
In my case, I tried to be matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
tell it like it is, or like I think it is anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more of expressing my own feelings than I was about communicating with anyone else, but I hope it would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen myself as a poet with a mission
Mm-hmm.
to talk about nature or any other issue that might be pertinent. That just isn't who I am. That being said, that's okay for others. I just don't think that's what has been okay for me for whatever reason. I think I see more of a I can't come up with a word, that nature, when you write about nature, you're actually mirroring the behavior of humans, that there's a relationship there of sorts. I'm not expressing myself very well.
Well, Beth, you've done a lot of poetry inspired by Japan and China,
Mm-hmm.
where nature was used sometimes to reflect a Taoist view or a Buddhist view or a Shintoist view, but also to expose the human very indirectly through the image.
I'll call you back. I've got the Zoom going on.
So I think the answer to not is to let the image do the preaching as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. I like the way you put that. That's great.
And I think little hints just in the diction, just
Mm-hmm.
hints. I remember writing a poem which was mostly for fun about autumn leaves and how on a urban yard in, you know, just sweeping them up and putting them in. But then at the turning towards the end, I said something like, I can't remember the words, but the trash bag stood neat and tidy on the urban street.
Uh-huh.
To sort of
Mm-hmm.
just to hint that we humans want everything neat and tidy, and nature isn't just like that, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One poem that I wrote was letting the dove express dismay at what was going on.
Mm.
Mourning sound is what she sees going on around the earth.
Mm-hmm.
It might work better than my saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Own voice.
Yeah.
Anybody want to share something they've written? Anybody get inspired to write something with the from the TED Talk?
It'll take me a little bit more than the full day to do that. But I have something that fits in if you would like to hear Greenhorn's
Please.
poem.
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
All right, this is the one where I tried to be matter of fact and not critique, just say what might happen. Footprints and tire tracks, dams and canals, streets, runways, buildings and bridges. By all of these by all of these and more, we have altered Mother Earth's being. When we're gone, she will return to herself as she was before time counted.
Oh, I love your last line.
Yeah,
That's really powerful.
there was nobody to count the time, it didn't count.
Well, and I think that that sends a message, but it doesn't do it in such an overtly in your face didactic way that it's off-putting. So I think that works.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you.
I wrote just the other day a sort of ditty, which I haven't looked at since, and it hints at something. I don't know if it comes across enough. I called it. It's called Heralds of Spring.
Mm-hmm.
Early March and a windless sunny day, but cold again. Green prods of energy shoot up, but too early. Last week, a warm spell like late April. I turned compost. In the gritty shoebox, tight sealed seeds, last year's leftovers. Those specks, potential lettuce, thyme, beans, organic beets. Tomatoes from seed? Too much trouble, buy plants instead. Beware though, those impulsive packets, sunflowers, cosmos, marigolds. Big mistake to let those golden granules spill out my purse. When they bloom, they'd crowd out every sunny space. But hey, I bought them anyway. So.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Any gardener can relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it does get at the idea of the human impact on the natural world
Good.
in a very subtle and funny
Yeah. Yeah,
humorous.
yeah, the humor.
Anybody else want to share?
Whoops. I think when I write nature-oriented poems, mine reflect more my intense love of nature rather than making a statement about it. It's just something that's been so much a part of my life for so long that I can't imagine expressing it any other way. Everything from climbing trees and building huts in the woods to catching insects. I think I wrote about my insect collection when I was 13, and whenever we would see an insect, my little brother or mother and I would catch one, and we found this great beetle the night before the collection was due. So we caught it, and while I was getting ready for school, mother pinned it into the box and labeled it for me. When I got to school, it was crawling around with a pin in it.
Oh,
It didn't, the killing jar didn't work.
oh no. You tortured it.
And, I didn't see well. I never have had very good vision. And so I was walking to the swimming pool, and I looked down and something caught my eyes, and I bent down, and it was a giant dragonfly that I guess somebody had hit with their car, and it was laying there, and I grabbed it up. But I can go on and on and on about nature in my life. It's just,
Well, it sounds like you grew up in the same kind of holler with the creek that I grew up in.
yep.
Just
We were-
mine was in Western Pennsylvania.
We were talking about crawdads on Facebook. Somebody had a gigantic one, and we call them crawdads in West Virginia. You all may call them crawfish.
No,
And I had let my 6th grade gifted students go out, and we caught, some of them were city kids and had never dug for crawdads. So we waded in the creek and caught crawdads and brought them back to the classroom. We had them in a bucket. We went to lunch. When we came back, they had escaped, and they were all over the classroom.
Oh no.
I can go on and on and on. I can tell you about possum stories and everything.
we had crawdads too. I grew up in southern Indiana. And they were crawdads.
Well, David, did you have a poem to share?
Well, I wrote one after watching the TED Talk.
Oh, do
good.
share. I'd love to hear it.
So first draft.
Good.
Predators of Hope. Red-headed woodpeckers have carved a cavity into the heavy branch of white oak that stands behind our home. We haven't seen that species here in our wooded suburb until they appeared this spring. First at the feeder, pecking hard nuts and seeds free, as if building into the bark after insects that crawl there. Then we heard a steadier drumming and thought not of it until we saw a pattern of sawdust and wood chips forming below the white oak. Now we watch the male watch from outside the cavity, from time to time flying away to return to feed its mate and guard the way into the hole of a future. They do not think abstractly as I have just done in that word, future, but instinct and drive make them mate, makes her lay eggs, makes him guard and feed her through the hole of this dark cavity. We stand below and far enough away that the male doesn't fly away to distract us from the hope in this dark cavity. Like an astronaut circling the moon, I can hold my thumb before my eyes and cover the hole, the bird, the hope, the way that astronaut did to hide around Blue World. When I blink and draw away my thumb, the thumb that has made us the conqueror of a world, a thumb that has made us able to destroy the round blue hope. When I pull my hand back, the male red-headed woodpecker still remains, guarding his hope. When we draw our hand back from millennia of carving into the blue world, what will remain of hope? A cavity of absence, a dark hole where life once lived in an abundance we hunted into this brittle scarcity today. The redhead bobs from behind the heavy branch. The dark eye watches me carefully, knowing I am a predator of hope. The evening begins to darken. We enter the burrow of our home and cover our sins with the false lights therein.
Oh, I love those last few lines. Wow.
So obviously I, took the image of the astronaut from the TED Talk, but coincidentally, I just finished reading a book about Apollo 11, and it also had discussed Apollo 8, where the pale blue dot, Sagan called it, appeared in that photo shot by the astronauts, and Lovell was the one who you talked about. His thumb could cover up the hole.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that's what I got out of it, at least.
Well, I could tell you, if I saw a red-headed woodpecker, I'd get so excited. The last thing I'd do is write a poem about it. I've got a woodpecker, but not a good big red-headed one.
Yeah, well, we've had, downy and hairy and
Yeah.
flickers and red-bellied, and we have pileated here too.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and they even come to our suet feeder. It's fun to watch that big bird hopping down the tree and jumping onto the suet feeder. But we hadn't had any red-headed here. And normally they like denser woods.
You must
And
have a lot more woods around your house where you live.
Well, we have trees. I mean, it is Lake of the Woods, but it's not a dense.
No, that's a great place to see nature, Lake of the Woods. Yeah.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left. So.
Well, I'll read one. It's not very good, but it's.
Oh, never start that way. Just
I know, but.
Start with the title and then read.
Oh, well, this is just a fantastic poem.
Don't go that far either.
Tuesday in April. The morning light seeps into the room early, like a long lost lover looking for one more kiss. To stay abed a smidgen longer while the sun peeks through diaphanous shears, draped for privacy in a lost world. Tuesday morning. We survived another rainy Monday with temperatures and rampant weeds relentless to cover the lawn. Spring and Tuesday, a combination that warms the heart, leaves the mind guessing what will come next. Perhaps a May with more blossoms, deep morning shadows, and love. So I'm equating spring and love. It's kind of saccharine, but I think there's a word missing there. When I edited, I think I left something out. Anyway, there it is.
Thank you. In the chat, I sent a link to that book that was mentioned, the 8 Mastery of Nature.
Oh, yes.
And I also set a link to the Muse reading tomorrow at 5 if you're interested.
Well, thank you very much. Very good.
I'm getting confused because I did some research after that and I ran across a book that I want to order, but I think it was different from what you had. Can't remember.
Can you tell me how how I save those quotes for myself without having to copy them down? It's probably simple.
You can
Go
go over to the chat and you can copy it. And
Oh, I can just copy them.
you
Okay.
can paste it either into your web browser. You can also right click on it. Or
Oh,
just click on it, I think, and it'll open.
well, no, I've got them up. I just want to keep them. So I just copy and paste.
Copy and paste into a document or
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Thank
something.
you. I learn every day. Okay. Can you hear him big dinging? It doesn't want to do it. Okay, not to worry.
You should be able to right click, select all, and then right click copy.
I'm using a Mac.
I think
Okay.
somebody else told me once in a Zoom meeting, and it may have been a Mac, I'm not sure, but they said they saw 3 little dots down by the chat, and there was a function where you could save the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. I didn't know if I could save it for myself or whether it was David I was saving it for. Not to worry, I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah, I don't know where it saves it to though. But
No, exactly. That's the story of my life. Where did it get saved to? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, everybody have a good weekend and take care.
What time was the thing on? Was it Sunday?
Sunday, tomorrow at 5.
5.
And the open reading follows the ODU English department.
Okay.
I think you have to sign up for that through that link.
Okay. Well, I won't be able to. All right. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for sharing that. And thank you for hosting us today.
Okay, and let me know what you want to do next time by email. And if this worked, maybe I'll find some other video or text or something to inspire a conversation.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would love to go further into ekphrastic poems, looking at images and seeing what they evoke. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Visual poetry?
Pardon?
Visual poetry?
Is
where the poem is a shape that.
Oh, yeah.
I think what Linda's speaking of is the ones based on paintings or sculptures.
Yes.
Okay.
Or photos or drawings or, yeah, any other artistic medium, really. Yeah.
Well, I could, or if you want to nominate some artwork or something, we could all write a poem inspired by a painting or something like that.
Oh,
Share those.
I have one already.
What was that, Madeline?
I have one already. The lady in green based on an Ed Hopper.
Well, we'll have 2 then.
It was written a long time ago. It's not particularly good. But.
All right, well, we'll try that then.
Good idea, Linda. Thank you.
Okay. And you'll
If you
send
want to email me a suggested painting, otherwise I will find one.
Okay, and you will send the email out, right? For when it's done.
A few days before.
Okay, lovely.
I'll see you virtually next month.
Thank you, everybody. It was great to see you all today.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Have a great week.
Everybody, enjoy spring and nature.
Yes.